Okay, there's Steve. Steve, can you hear us okay?
Just fine, just fine.
Excellent. Sorry about the trouble there.
We're good?
I think so.
Okay. July 12th, 2023 work session for the city of Gerhart. Call to order. This work session is strictly about water rates and what we need to do to make our water fund solvent again. And so having said that, I'm going to have Chad read this little staff report that he has for us.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. And also I would like to let you know Mark McFadden is here with us, Director of Public Works. And we also have Steve Donovan, who has helped us to this point with his firm and information. So subject to water rates. So Gerhart has built its own water treatment facility in 2011. It actually wasn't finished until about 2013.
I think it was 2012. I looked it up when I went back to the plant. Yeah, it was okay. So that's on me.
But during that process, unforeseen factors caused higher construction and operation costs. The project was delayed for 3 years due to appeals, leading to an increase in expenses, including changing building code requirements, allowable arsenic levels, resulting in a $4 million shortfall made up by an additional bond. Additionally, the city discovered reduced water allocation in the summer, creating unexpected expenses, including the reliance on warranted water. And really that last sentence should be more about that. I think that the city knew of the reduced water, but anticipated being able to get full water rights, which has not come to fruition yet. Over the last decade, the water reserve account has grown steadily while expenses increased. Operational costs for the water system, including aging infrastructure, labor, fuel, utilities, service contracts, freight surcharges, and supplies have risen without proportional revenue growth. Eliminating transfers to the water reserve account provides a short-term solution that hinders future reserves. Other factors contributing to declining operating funds include the pandemic's impact on costs, including increased summer traffic, remote work, and a 22% population increase. Now, the census said 22% for the population increase, but an epiphany that happened when I was talking to the mayor earlier. The census doesn't account for the full-time residents increase in Gerhart during and after the pandemic. So we saw about 380 new residents during for the census. We're not sure what the increase is that we saw since that time to now. We're assuming it's still been, people have been coming into town and making this their permanent home site. A lot of people have been retiring, and then people also learned that they could work from home. So the staff has some recommended actions here and some goals that we've laid out. And this is what we put together and we would like you to consider. The recommended actions are to instruct the staff to write an ordinance to accomplish a 15% increase in both the basic and the above basic consumption rates at the August City Council meeting. We can bring that to you in August.
So I'm sorry,
go ahead.
That would be for the August meeting, not at the August meeting. So we're going to indicate to you that we would prefer to have an ordinance at the August meeting.
Correct.
Okay, not at.
Thank you for clarifying. Also with the recommended action, as Steve Donovan pointed out, we need to begin transferring again annually from the water fund about $40,000 starting the fiscal year 24 and 25 if revenue is available. Now $40,000 isn't enough, but it's a start. Future rate increases, and when we see how things perform, we may have to do another rate increase to increase that amount to cover the expenses in the future for updating our system. Also, we recommend consider rate increases annually to cover the rising cost and achieve a 90-day operating expense reserve in 3 to 5 years. There's a possibility we can get a little bit ahead of that and do that a little bit sooner, but 3 to 5 years gives us enough time, I think, to accomplish that, barring anything new and unforeseen. In that, we want to increase the water reserve account to fund future projects, including exploring grants and low interest loan opportunities. Now, that's once we have a good project. Let's say it's replacing all the water line on Highway 101 when they go redo that highway, if they do anytime soon. That would probably exceed our revenue or our reserve account. So we may have to become creative in the way that we accomplish that. But there are mechanisms, grants, low interest loans, things that we can do to accomplish that. On the back page, our goals for staff are to report yearly to the council on things such as labor, materials, services, the CPI index and COLA during the budget process in spring.
We have a back page.
Gotcha.
It's on the back. You guys can have mine.
Can I borrow yours as well? Anybody else not have the back page?
Okay.
Okay. Sorry about that. And Steve, this is online as well. If you go to the City of Gerhart site, Justine was able to put that up. So report yearly to the council on materials, all these things for the budget process. Our goal again is to increase the working capital over the next 3 to 5 years to accomplish 90 days of operating expenses. And this goal may be accomplished sooner depending on revenues and future rate increases. We want to increase, our goal is to increase the water reserve account to fund future projects. Increase may include grants, low interest loans, projects, and other grant opportunities are identified. And continue our water conservation projects, including better leak detection, updated meter installations, and promoting resident water conservation efforts. So with that being said, based on a conversation that I've had with Steve and many with Justine, and working with staff, Steve was recommending 10%, 10%, and then after that another 10, and then whatever it would take afterwards, maybe a 4% increase over the revenue over those years. To get this into line a little bit sooner, we think that the rates should increase by 15% in both those categories. That would be the basic above consumption rates and the basic rate. Yes, ma'am.
You're talking about per year?
So 15% this year.
Right, for 1 year.
Correct. And then next year we would reevaluate and potentially do another 5 to 10% increase approximately. We're going to have to see how this works out, how it kind of comes together. But it would probably be another increase as well. Could you grab the paper that's in the photocopy for me and hand that out to people?
So what it is considered rate increases annually to cover rising costs. Is that in perpetuity or just for 5 years?
Well, you know how, yes. Okay, could you make 8 copies?
I can try.
Thank you. He can work a water plant. Every year, Ecology comes to us with a report about all of the status changes within their business, including the cost increases, the revenue, the amount of people, population, that sort of thing. They come to us and they tell us what their rate increase is going to be for every year. Staff would like to provide you with that information during the budget process every year. And at that time, we can make decisions during the budget process, any potential rate increase, if we need it, if we don't, and then get that into policy and ordinance so that July 1, those rates change and we can start with those rates.
So when the ordinance is written, there will not be a cap, a yearly cap on the rate increases. It will say, I mean, it could go on and on.
We're going to just recommend in that ordinance that the next rate increase be 15%.
Okay.
And then from the years after that, it's up to the council with staff's input of where we go next. But it will be an informed decision by the council. And then we will make sure that we're reporting this to you during the budget process. It'll take us some time to get that. But that way, every year we can consider this and not end up in this situation.
And remember, we just went through a COLA increase for our employees of 8%, and that's statutory. We don't have any control of that. And 8% is a big jump in costs.
And I don't think that's going to happen again next
No,
year,
because
because those are
inflation.
factors. Those are factors we need to put in.
Right. But it's something, you know, as a basis for doing this, this is one of the bases. It's an increase of 8%. Is big.
And that
And
was,
there might be years, but it seems like it wouldn't, but there might be years that we look at it and we say, we don't need to increase it, but this would be a mechanism that forces us to look at it each year, which we should be doing, so that we don't get into the same situation that we're in now, where we go
Exactly.
3 years before we go, okay, well, let's change our course, let's change our trajectory. We need to look at this every year, I think.
Okay, I mean, the thing is, I pay $20 a month every month. That's $40 every 2 months, right? Every billing cycle. So it's $20 a month, right?
sure,
We're increasing $6
every 2 months, yes.
every 2 months,
$3 and sometimes.
$3 a month.
Right.
If people that live in this city can't afford $3 a month to water their lawns,
Right.
or, you know, flush the toilets or something like that. I mean, the people that water their lawns are gonna be paying a hell of a lot more.
Right, and I think that's why you're recommending the rate increase for the other number also, because that can get where it's kind of tricky, right? If they start conserving water, and that's why we need to look at this again next year, because if they start conserving water, they can really skew our numbers.
Yeah, and the thing
Or
is,
it can change drastically.
the thing is these people that, you know, have moved down here during the pandemic, that now are occupying their, you know, beach houses or whatever it is like that. They all want their lawns green. They're using the most amount of water when we have the least amount of, you know, we have the least amount of ability to supply it. So, you know, we're having to buy more.
And along those lines, Justine brought up earlier, those houses that have been sitting here vacant, which up until a few years ago was 60% of our homes were second homes, not vacation rentals, but second homes.
Yeah.
Those houses were sitting there paying $39 and using not very much water, typically. But now that we've had this amount of people to come into town, those houses are still possibly paying the $39 water rate, but now they're using water. And especially in the summertime, and sometimes above and beyond their normal rates now. So during the summertime is when it's most expensive for us to give water to the public, because we're also buying at retail. Warranted.
And it hurts us when we have a dry May and a dry June like we did this year. As opposed to last year when we were flooded out until almost July.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Yes.
How are leaks detected? Because I know in the past, since I moved here, that we've had to forgive at least a couple of homeowners for thousands of dollars of water.
We do that. How many times a month would you estimate that we give the 40% reduction?
So you want to know our process of how we do that?
How you detect the leaks?
So Chad's only allowed to give up to a 40% reduction unless it is the city's fault, you know, and then we would have to do something different. But so we get the reads from the meter reader, we enter them into the system. He sends us a report of ones that he thinks could potentially be leaks. And then I go through them and check ones that seem high, our system flags them red. So I open it up and try to see if there's some kind of pattern, because it will be that they'll have 0 reads for 9 months and then all of a sudden they'll go to 71. Because in the summer, they turn that water on. And so those 3 cycles, it will be 60, 70, 80. So I look at it, see if it's a pattern, I try to email them, send them a picture that says, hey, this isn't if it doesn't look like a pattern, I'll email and say, hey, this doesn't look like a pattern. Or I'll call them if we have a current phone number and say, looks like something's going on. We've sent public works out there, the meter is spinning, that nobody appears to be home, so you probably have a leak. And then they have to do a leak reduction form.
But hasn't it already leaked X amount of time before we get on top of it?
Yeah, at least one cycle.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So
It could-
2 months.
It could be as much as a stuck toilet.
Right.
I mean, it takes a lot of water.
It does.
It's amazing how just a leaky toilet, and how much water that uses.
Or it could be a drip, you know, it could be a faucet that wasn't shut off and it's dripping.
Yeah.
I mean. Go ahead.
No, we talked about this back in December, November, about, well, is there a way we could get out in front of this and do our own leak detection? And we talked about the difficulties of doing that in the sand, right? The readings, the sand throws it all off.
Yeah, but that's on more of our big water mains, not, she's talking just the services
Just
for people's
services.
meters and not to say that this is the best way, but I mean, that's why a lot of cities go to monthly readings because they can catch it.
Yeah.
And that is in our water conservation plan.
Which would require more staff.
Correct.
A lot of-
Exactly, yeah, but more money, more time, so.
So would it be, are we ever going to start using the remote reads on these things? I mean,
So currently Mark is trying to locate the companies that will come in and help us with that install. And then once we get that install done, we would suggest every month read. I'm working with another company who's interested in giving us a price on actually doing all the installs of these meters, maintaining all of our meters, reading them monthly, and then also giving us faster reporting on these leaks. It's an interesting concept. It's the first time I've heard of anything like this. It's kind of a new process, and it could be expensive for the city. So we're in discussions now, so we can learn more and make recommendations to the council.
So do we have any idea per year of what the leaks cost the city?
I can figure that out for you.
I'd be interested to know.
I think you will be surprised that it's not that much
It's not,
in the sense of, $9 million or $900,000 in revenue.
no, I wasn't thinking that. I was thinking maybe it costs us more in the leaks that we put the bill for versus the monthly, what it would cost us to do the monthly reading.
Well, if I'm wrong, you only really reduce the ones that are actually, it was an accident and they
We have
had
to
a broken
find-
pipe or something like that. It wasn't their fault.
Right.
So it's not the ones that are using too much water. It's just the,
They try
so,
sometimes.
yes, they do try. So,
We ask them to find a villain before we give them a reduction. The villain might be toilets, that sort of thing. And then we kind of occasionally monitor, to make sure that the next month they have seen a reduction. And then once we get that data, then we offer the discount.
Or it could be a half-open sprinkler valve or something like that, that it doesn't activate the heads, it just spews water down into the sand.
Well, it's most difficult.
yeah, in water service lines around here in the sand, it might be leaking here, but it's coming up across the street somewhere. That's how far it travel. So there's no way of knowing if they had a leak unless somebody tells them. They don't know. So,
Sure. But my point being is, does it cost the city enough to offset what it would cost us to do monthly meter readings? That's all I'm asking.
Maybe. The other thing is that what's the acceptable water loss rate for a city?
right now, it's around 10–15%. I mean, it's something that the EPA and the feds are really, water conservation is becoming a huge deal. And it's not, we see it smaller here because everybody thinks, oh, it rains all the time, so we can't have a problem. But we do have a problem. It's getting here, and places like, like Bend and places like that, they don't allow grass and stuff. They just water is so they're around finding for doing certain things. It's becoming a big deal. They want to keep it between that 10 and 15% of water loss. So that's the goal.
So typically, I ran some numbers in August to really figure out what the average person uses in August. Residential, rural, not the condos, not that sort of thing. My calculations indicate that people on average use 11 units of water. That's the 10 that they get from the $39 rate. And then one more unit in addition to, for various reasons, families, landscaping, that sort of thing. But that's the average.
Is that per month or for 2 months?
That was for 2 months,
So per person,
I think,
No, per household.
Yeah, 2 months.
per household.
oh, per household.
Yes. So when we're looking at this current rate increase, people will receive a rate increase on their $39, and that'll go from 39 to 44.85. And then on average, they're going to be paying one more quantity of the basic rate, 748 gallons. They are paying 640. We're going to up that to 736. Now, the people who are above average, right, above average and use a lot of water for their big lawns or whatever else that they're doing with this water, there's some people that will see a large increase in their bill because of that 15% increased rate on people over and above. That's part of our water conservation plan as well. That water is more expensive than just the $39 water.
Do you have any idea how many households that is? Ballpark?
Over the top would be 50%, but then we have a top 10 list of some people that spend thousands of dollars every 2 months to water their lawns.
Right, but what are the numbers of households, you know?
We have how many connections? About
About
1,800.
1,800, yeah.
No. How many households are above the average 11?
I would say more than 50%, if that's, I mean,
Yeah.
at least. So,
Well,
Because every 2 months, we're giving people 7,000, how many gallons? 7,480 gallons. That's what you get for 2 months period of time. And that's $39. For every 748 gallons over that, they're going to be paying a higher rate of 736. They're going to pay an additional rate of 736 per consumption, 740 gallons, which for some people is a day or 2 days of watering. But that's not typical. You know, so we've got some people that pay a lot of money per year, especially in the summer. And the other factors that we have to take into play here, our revenue is not constant. There's times to where we don't get any rain. You know, we've got more water coming. There's times where we got a bunch of rain like last year in June.
yeah, I mean, I produced, I'd have to look at the numbers, but probably half the amount of water I did this year in June. Because it rained for 3 weeks last year in June, so we just didn't, so we didn't have that revenue either, so.
This is why I like the idea of let's do this as soon as possible. So we have almost a whole year's worth of data so that we could see what's gonna happen, and particularly, well, we're gonna miss the summer months. But so we can look at this and see how it's gonna go, whether the big spenders are going to reduce their spending and therefore our income numbers, our expectations are gonna be off, and whether we're gonna have to adjust this again. I still think is this number still coming up with his assumed cost increases that he listed before in the recommended actions? Or-
Steve is online and maybe he can elaborate on that a little bit.
Is this still based on the 5% labor and MS? And 3% increase per year for materials and services?
Right, and that's a great question, and we ran this analysis with you in mind, by the way.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to be difficult, it's just, I.
No, and
really
I'm
don't want to
sympathetic.
give people a bait and switch and tell them this is the worst that it's gonna be, and then it's not. I'd like us to be smart about this, so.
And the answer to your question is, it still does assume 5% rate, inflation costs for this fiscal year, and in personal services and materials and services, and then 3% per year thereafter. Another reason for the 15% that would lower your blood pressure, it gives you a cushion. If your costs do increase, you've got more cash coming in the door with that 15% rate increase that helps fund that difference if your inflation does go up faster than what we've got in the model. And that's a great question, and it's very, very valid.
All right. Is there any other discussion on this?
I've got one thing for you, and then I'll be quiet. Preston, you said you pay $20 a month, $40 on the cycle, right?
Correct.
Okay, the average customer pays $25.94 based on the statistics that we had from the billing agent. So for that bill, that $25, he pays about 1/2 of 1 cent per gallon to have water at his home at any time, day or night. Yeah, it's a great value.
Well, I've got no complaints about what I pay for water here.
Go to Safeway in Seaside and buy a gallon of bottled water. It'll cost you $3. At your house, you get that same gallon of water for about 1/2 cent anytime you want it.
But you don't have to pay, you don't have to recycle the plastic.
There you go.
So there's a lot to this. And I think that this is a simple start that will head us in the correct direction. We're going to be able to, I think, recoup, what it is that we're spending. Really, over this period of time, we were putting too much money into our 401k based on the rates that we have. We should be more on top of these rates, and I think with this plan, we will be, and we'll have more discussions about it.
Do you think that the city's gonna get any blowback from the residents? Because if they do, I mean, all you have to do is just show them, this sheet right here. As to what the increase is, and have them compare that to what they're paying in Seattle or Portland or Salem or Bend or wherever it is they're coming from. Then it's gonna go to, I guarantee you this, in the next 20 years, they're gonna go to where Carmel Valley was, or the city of Carmel. They're gonna say, we have tapped out our water resources. And if you're gonna build, we're not issuing any more water meters. You're gonna have to find your own source of water. And you're gonna have to go to the state in order to be able to get a well permit. And that's what's gonna happen in the West here. All wars in the West have been fought over water. Okay?
I agree with you, but I think we're gonna get some blowback because that's just human nature. People are gonna complain.
Justine might be able to answer that question best. I mean, there's some people that call and are quite surprised that their landscaping systems are using so much water, and they kind of run us through pretty ragged, trying to convince us that it's our problem up there.
And this month, this last cycle, 13 pages of re-verified came back, so 13 pages of meters that the meter reader system flagged as a potential leak. So he rereads the meter to see if it's spinning. It's just simply water usage. And people commonly spend in certain areas for the 2-month period in the summer months between $200 and $700 for 2 months.
If I could make a suggestion, and I'm sure you've already thought of this, but this chart kind of says it all. And if all the residents could see this chart, they would understand where our water rates are compared to everybody else's. I mean, picture is worth 1,000 words.
And so it's this little paper here, we could combine the two in a water bills when it comes out. But that doesn't stop what we're going to do. What I hope everyone feels they might want to do in August. And that's, we're not making any decisions tonight, but it may be better for staff to be given an indication that go ahead and get us an ordinance for the August meeting.
I know, I know that every year, the years fluctuate as far as water usage and revenue, but as a 15% increase, can you transfer, or can you tell me what that means dollar wise? About how much money that in a year that the city would make over and above what we're currently?
I can on the basic rate.
Yes,
It'll be about 150,000
okay,
on the basic rate, 15% on almost $1 million. So let's just estimate that. I think that the the overage, the increase, I can't really get a feel for what it is that we get in that category, the above and beyond. But I would say it's probably going to bring in at least another 50,000, probably much greater than that, being super conservative.
Okay, thank you.
Then we have the out of city rate too as well. It's kind of hard.
Yeah,
They're all big water users.
So there are people who do not pay taxes to the city of Gerhart, such as the Palisades, the Highlands, the Mallard Teal Court, that area. Their rates are higher. Their 15% increase will be higher. But keep in mind, they're not paying taxes to bring the bonds down. This is in addition, to help with the bonds as well. But I would say that we go across the board, including our larger water users such as the condominiums. And some of the other places, some of the other businesses and things. This rate increase of 15% will increase all of that. And I think that we're going to be heading in the right direction.
Is there reserve on our water system?
Yes. And they are taxpayers for the city of Gerhart. So they're on the in-city rate, not the out-city rate.
So do we have commercial rates and residential rates?
We have,
Everybody's on the same rate.
We have different meters.
we
so
charge a
some
different
people-
rate. Yeah.
So you charge depending on what the size of the meter is,
Correct, but we also have some residential homes that have bigger meters.
like 1 inch.
Mhm.
So after this increase, we won't be taking anything more from the water reserve fund.
That's the goal. And then we will also start replacing the money that we're taking out of the water reserve fund.
That
One
we
of the
just voted
reasons-
on, right?
Yeah. One of the reasons why, when we discuss this rate, is to replace that 314. Is it?
Yes,
That's correct.
314,000
That's absolutely correct.
As soon as possible,
I understand.
because
In case we have an emergency.
that's right.
Yeah.
And you know, the big thing for me was the 401 and the checking account. It finally dawned on me that this was absolutely a bad thing to happen. And we needed to get on this right away. And that's one of the reasons why I asked for this work session when I did. Because I think it's something we need to address, and we should have a town hall. And I said next week, but it'll be 2 weeks from now, right?
Potentially, we're going to work with the staff, come up with some dates, and then we'll be in touch with you, and then we'll be in touch with everybody to kind of determine that. So we give the people and the public, the opportunity to ask questions, and
Right.
participate, as you said.
Right, and I'd like to do that with the full council, so we need to, I don't know, doodle poll or whatever Christie does now. To find out.
Yeah, Christie will make sure she can find you. The other aspect of this is that, sure, we need to increase the rates and we need to get back into a level and we need to start saving some money, but we really need to start saving some money. And putting more money into our 401k to cover for some of the things. I guess on Facebook, I've heard a couple people say that there's been people saying, we're dealing with breaks all the time. Our system is old. Mark, did you want to comment on that?
We're not. I mean, I don't know where people, I think it's just a lot of misinformation. I mean, I've had one major water main break in the last 2 years, and that was the one down on G Street. All the rest of the little breaks and stuff I have are just services or whatnot. It's mostly people's side of the meters, but to everybody, that's another main break. And it's not. I mean, and then the 2 main breaks I had before that were contractors digging through our water main when it was marked, and it was their mistake, and they ended up paying for it. We had another contractor run over a fire hydrant. They paid them, that was by his house. They paid for it. So, yeah, we billed them for that.
There's another one down up the North Pacific Way.
Yeah, yep, that was clean sweep at that fire hydrant. So, I mean, but human error we can't control. But I mean, over the last 24 years, actual water main breaks that have just broke on their own, I don't even know if it's probably less than 10. So, I mean, yeah, knock on wood. But,
Well, there's, I can tell you, coming from the Southern California area, when LA does their conservation efforts, it really hurts them because what they're finding is all that turning off water and turning it on, not letting the water run through those pipes, and then all of a sudden putting all that pressure through the pipes.
Yeah, water hammers a
bursting
huge deal.
pipes.
Yeah.
It's crazy, and I defy you to find, you know, a city, the age of our city, that doesn't have some old pipes that need to be replaced, but there's something else going around where people are saying, are citing the old comprehensive plan that says back in the 1970s, they said it would cost $5 million.
Right.
And then they assume that we've done absolutely nothing to replace any pipes since then,
And that's not true.
and that's not true.
There's a brand new main running from the meter house down there on McCormick Gardens Road, all the way on up Pacific Way, okay?
Correct.
They moved the hydrants from the south side to the north side.
Our main transmission lines are, that was put in the early 90s, I think, is that line there, but that's considerably new compared to anything else. So, I mean, it's all new plastic stuff. Our main transmission line coming from our reservoir is the best stuff you can have. So, I mean, there's things, I mean, like the highway one, yeah, that's gonna be a problem. That one and the one that runs through town on Ridge Path. Well, how much damage do you want to do on Ridge Path to replace that water main? So, I mean, those are all tough calls. You're gonna have to go through all those trees.
We would remove
So,
it.
so what do you want?
Yeah, no vote.
You can live, you can't live without the water. So.
Are there earthquake standards that you have to adhere to?
There is now. I mean, back in the day, there wasn't, obviously. I mean, there's new seismic stuff we have to do for everything we do now. So.
But the Ridge Path isn't going up.
So what's that?
The Ridge Path pipe is not going up.
No, and you know, that's probably a couple of the hardest main breaks I've had over my time is when one of those big spruce trees come down, and it's not fun. So because it's those spruce trees are wrapped around that water main all the way through. So. But yeah, I mean, as far as main breaks, that's just all misinformation. So, because I had a question, we were replacing the storm drain down here. And they were like, well, you guys had another main break. I was like, no, I was replacing the storm drain. It wasn't a main break, so.
I did just come back from Rome. Their system's pretty old. I think we've got it now. Okay.
Can I say it'll last forever? No, you never know. I mean,
And I think the answer is yes, but when we're doing something like that, and there might be people out there coming to mind, are we putting it out on the blog? Like
yeah,
a
of
couple
course, we
days
come
in
into the
advance
office
saying,
and Christy will send out stuff. She usually, if we have to shut water down, I'll give her a map and she'll map off everybody that's gonna be affected when the
I
water
mean,
shut
like,
off.
this is a storm
Yeah,
drain,
yeah, I mean,
cleanup, and by the way, it has nothing to do with the water main.
yeah. and
Might
that's-
be,
it seems to me like every time I take that backhoe and dig in, I get questions, oh, you broke another water main. Oh, we didn't. We do other things too.
And I think some of you saw that during the last main water break, we actually operated an emergency operations center up here for the fun of it. Had the police involved, public works. We had, we put out an alert on the Clatsop County alert system, and we also put it on the blog, and we communicated with as many people as we can. So when a major water main breaks, everybody's gonna know, because we're gonna communicate that.
and just because we have you here, this is, again, might be going into the weeds, so
Yeah, go
this
ahead.
would be the Reader's Digest version of this. But there was some conversation about the water rates that we pay to Warrenton and whether we should be in city or out of, we should be paying in city or out of city
Mhm.
rates. And there are some people that I've heard from that are a little confused about that. And what Peter was explaining to everybody was that we are not your normal out of city customers for Warrenton because we are maintaining our own.
Exactly. So you look at like where Chad lives out at Sir Pines, he's out of the city just like we are in Gerhart. But if Chad has a problem at his house, he's gonna call Warrenton, they're gonna come fix it. If you have a problem at your house, you're gonna call us and we're gonna come fix it. They literally don't, all they do is make the water for us. They don't maintain anything else.
So your typical out of city
Correct.
user is costing them more.
Correct.
So therefore, it makes sense for them
Correct,
to
yes,
charge
yeah.
more, whereas maybe it makes sense for them to charge us a little bit more, but not that, I mean, there
Correct.
almost needs to be a special rate for us.
Yeah, because they don't have to maintain our system like they do out at Surf Pines. They have to pay to maintain that system. They don't maintain our system.
So who maintains the islands?
We do.
Okay, and you maintain Beechwood Estates and.
Correct.
Yeah.
We do Beechwood, Steel
But you don't-
Courts,
Reserve.
Highlands,
Reserve.
Palisades,
Reserves, yeah.
reserves in the cities.
Yeah, right.
Not the public, or yeah, not, I'm sorry, I was thinking Pinehurst.
Yeah, no, we do. the
And
Palisades.
Pinehurst is a whole separate. They're in Surf Pines and everything.
And you were explaining to me that we get charged by Warrenton for 2 mains.
Correct, the
and then
connections,
we-
and Justine will tell you, I don't know how much it is, but
So
they
they're-
charge us just for a connection, just like we would charge you on your house for a connection, whether you use water or not.
And yet we are providing them with a connection.
Correct.
And they are not
We
necessarily
don't
being
charge them.
charged, we don't
We
charge.
don't charge them at all. So,
Okay, and we have to do that, or we should do that, it's the right thing to do because of
yeah, it's a
emergency
connection. I would
services
think we would
needs
charge
with the backup water
them. So,
plans.
Yeah, I mean, that's.
So Mark, I saw you down at the pressure building down there today. You still maintain the one up off of Delmar Loop? Or is that strictly?
Yes, no, we still maintain two. We have the two connections there. It's a balancing
Yes,
act.
a
You saw
balance.
me in there because I was turning that valve back on. So this time of year, it's a balancing act of whether I'm taking too much of the water and not enough, because there's a problem. So if my reservoir, my clear wells fill up with their water, then my machine shuts off and I have to buy more water from them. I don't want my machine shutting off. So it's a balancing act of, my guys are constantly, maybe in the middle of the night, hey, you need to go turn that valve on before we overflow the reservoir. So, I mean, it's a battle.
Mark knows exactly where the amount of water, knows exactly how much water we are allowed to take out. In the summertime, because it's reduced. In the wintertime, we could pump all the water we want, but we don't need it. Summertime, we're down. Mark knows that he's got a limited amount, but he has worked hard over the years on making sure we get every drop of water we are allowed to get out to supplement our system, so we don't have to pay warranty. And so that's something he's gotten very, very good at. And that's why in June, he's a little stressed.
You got a little stretch.
Try to keep up with it.
Well, I work a lot of nights in June because our machines have to be maintained. They have to go through chemical washes and stuff, or the pressures of the water pushing through it will build up and the machines will shut off by themselves. We don't have a choice. So those things have to be done, but I can't do it in the morning when we're using more water than I can make. We're going backwards. So it has to be done at night when we're not using as much water.
So in June, we're wide open. In July, we go to the reduced amount, right?
So yes, correct.
Our water tower, do we keep that full at all times or what's that?
Our water, what?
Reservoir.
The reservoir, yeah, I try to keep it as full as possible. I mean, it's harder this time of year, but I don't usually go below. It's a 1 million gallon reservoir, top is 20 feet. I try to stay above 16 feet in that of all times. So, I mean, it's gotten down to 12, 13, but I mean, as long as, it all depends on how much water we're taking and the pressures in town. You don't want to lower your pressures too much, but it's a balancing act all the way around.
And would that water from that facility, does it serve all of Gerhart residents?
Correct, yes.
Okay, and how many days worth of water would that be?
1 million, it depends.
I know.
It depends on
June
what
day.
day it is, yeah, exactly, one June day, so. I mean,
One June
Yeah, I
day.
mean, so in June, it's about, I'm making about 650,000 gallons a day in June is what's running out of my plant on average.
But if we had an emergency, we had to depend on that water, people aren't gonna be watering their lawns, so I would compare it to a winter day
So,
for
I mean,
emergency, right?
well, and that's why we're also connected to Seaside Warrenton. So it's not a complete absolute emergency.
Right.
And it's a known thing, like, I mean, our biggest issue this time of year is if we had a structure fire or something. The fire department needs to call me so I can figure out how to get them enough water. So And
Which thankfully,
little things like that.
we can open up Warrenton or Seaside. So the relationship between these towns is very important to us. And over the years, it has gotten much better. We rely on Warrenton, they rely on us for emergency water and also Seaside. So this is a community and we're all trying to do our best. Warrenton is seeing some increases in their cost as well. And not only that, but they're growing enough to where they're going to have to consider to do some large projects. They're going to raise their rates or do system development charges to help pay for those projects. Their mindset right now is Gearhart's going to do that as well through the rates that we're going to help them design their system if we continue on. So one of the goals I had on my other version, I didn't put on this version, is the mayor and I and the team are starting to talk to some specialists on the increased water rights portion of this. That's another goal that will only help us and save us some money. The more that we can do on our own and not pay Warrenton, the better the savings and the revenue increase.
Okay, so if we, sorry, just a minute, if we increase the water that we're pulling from, if we get increased rights and we start pulling more water out of our aquifer, do we have an idea of what the increase in capital costs and processing and treating that water might be? That was Jack.
I'm working on it. I have been in contact with our original engineers that designed our plant. And he was at a conference in Toronto, so he was going to get back to me and I was going to talk to him about some of those things. I mean, adding, I don't have an answer for that right now. So there's a lot that goes into adding on to that because it's not just so we have 2 filter skid units in there. When we built the plant, we have room for a 3rd one. Everything's the conduit pipes, everything was put to it. You just don't have it. That filter unit, I think I got a price of around $450,000 or something like that. Was that, maybe it was 300. I don't have to look it up.
For a 3rd one.
Yeah, correct. But that's just putting the skid in there. You got to have pipe expansion. You got to have electrical programming controls. All that stuff is, and I just don't know right now.
Okay, so don't we have to factor that into our decision as to what we're willing to pay Warrenton? Do you see what I'm saying?
She wants to know if we had 100% water rates, how would it cost us more to run the plant?
Oh, of course, but
Of course.
with what we have right now, if they gave us all the water rights we needed, we don't have the capacity to produce what we need.
Right, I understand.
Without highly upgrading stuff. So.
Yes, so if we don't know how much the upgrades would cost, how can we compare that to what it would cost us to not do that and to depend on Warrenton?
Well, that's why we're
Short contract, right?
And we are looking at a short contract. Right now, the city of Warrenton is not raising the rates on us for this next upcoming year, as far as I can tell, but the year after, they're gonna raise significantly. And so
we can't enter into a long-term contract with.
I think eventually we can, but they're in flux. We're in flux.
Okay.
We're trying to figure out what normal is and where it is that we need to go. There's a lot of new staff at Warrenton. They're putting their arms around it. They're doing a good job of trying to figure this out. They know their system really well. They're gonna have to upgrade their system. We're gonna have to upgrade ours. More people, more fun.
And I want you guys to know that I have a great relationship with Warrenton. I live in Warrenton. Me and their operator, we talk all the time. We help each other out. I mean, constantly. So there's no issues there with me and our operators with the city of Warrenton. So
It's all politics.
So we get along great. I've known him forever and he's known me and it's
Well, and as far as pursuing our own water rights, there are some people that are saying that we will not get our own water rights. And I would say that we have a better possibility at this time right now than we have had in the past with some of because right now we have a political climate where it's very important to the people that are in charge of Oregon right now to build more houses. And you cannot build more houses without providing more water. And the logic, because we are limited on what we can do as far as building, because we're on septic and some of the other issues, Warrenton is the logical place in this area to allow that building to occur. And they would be better and more efficient at that if we had our own water rights. So I think we should make hay while the sun is shining, and this is the time to try for it. And I agree, we should try for it.
Yeah, and you're right, and the state can very well come back and say no, and there's nothing we can do about it. So we don't know what they're gonna say until we try, so.
Right. But you can't have a conversation with anybody in the state right now without them mentioning
Sure.
they
Yeah,
want more building.
yeah, exactly.
That is, so you have conflicting, you have the folks that want to reserve water, but then you have the folks that say, we've got people living on the streets, we need houses. And
Sure.
those two, we'll see who wins.
Water's gonna win.
So do you guys foresee any point in time where we wouldn't be getting water from Warrenton?
As far as, I mean,
Like if we could permanently have our own system and be able to supply our own, it's gonna be difficult.
I don't know. I don't really have an answer to that. Will I see it? I don't know. So I just, I mean, I can say, you know, back when there was the animosity between us and Orchard or whatever was happening, it actually turned out for the better because we have more water. I don't know without our system if they would be able to do what they're doing and building all these more houses. I don't know if they would have the water without us having ours too. So I don't think there would be enough nowadays.
Mutually beneficial.
So I think us having ours benefits them as well because they can build more houses, but I just don't know.
Well, they've shut most of the canneries down.
They did, and years ago when I was 18, 19, I was one of the maintenance engineers at the cannery, and we used a lot of water.
They just left it open.
We did. I would say as early as 15 years ago, Warrenton didn't even have meters, so.
It was just a flat rate.
It was a flat rate forever. Growing up in Warrenton, we were flat rate. I mean, there was no meters.
Yeah. And also another thing is that this was not projected. This growth that we're going through right now was not projected when the previous administration designed the system as we have it now.
Right.
You know, we were looking at a 6.5% increase in census every 10 years, 0.65 per year, 12, 14, 20 people. That's changed. So we're doing our best to catch up, and this is going to be very helpful to do so.
All right, so we're coming to the end of this work session. And if everyone agrees that this is something that staff should do, then we should just go ahead and do it.
We'll go ahead and bring you the ordinance so that you can make that decision.
Right, we're not making a decision, but we can actually tell them, go ahead and do it. So if everyone said, go ahead and do it,
Go ahead and do it.
then you've got an idea that we're all behind this.
Okay, and then you can consider it during the next meeting. We will bring the ordinance as we think it should go, and then we'll have a further discussion about this. We'll have more information, a little bit more information, clean some of this up. And then your idea, the communication, the graphs, paper, that sort of thing that we have here. The town hall meeting, we will do our best to get into a campaign where we notify people what's going on.
It would be nice if the town hall was before the August meeting, since we're going to be doing something in August. And not the day before. Not the day, the week before I can handle it, the day before. Anyone else got anything for the work session?
Just thank you to Mark and that we don't get to see you very often, and thank you enough for everything that you do. You're the guy behind the scenes, but thank you. And also thank you to you for putting up with us and letting us beat you up a little bit.
That's to you, Steve.
Steve. Thank you for being a good sport.
Yeah, and thank the staff for getting this together so fast, because I was a little adamant about it.
Yeah.
Meeting adjourned.
Thank y'all. Y'all.
And is the Gerhart Golf Course the biggest consumer of water in Gerhart?
Meetings done.
They have their own water.
They have more water rights than we do.